And we are live. Welcome back to Bowtie Certified, where we follow the journey of others through their certifications and learning journeys to get them to where they're at right now. My name is Anthony Tsavelis, and I am your host, and this is episode 18. I am a technical instructor and course creator in Google Cloud. And so if you're looking for any cloud training or certification courses, reach out. I got you. Today, I have a very special guest, Stephanie Wong, all the way from Hawaii. Thank you, Stephanie, for joining us
Aloha.
today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me.
So, a little backstory. Stephanie and I don't really know each other, but through all my, I guess, doing my courses, every time I look up documentation, I go to a specific page to look for a service, and there's Stephanie talking to me about a service, and I'm like, "Hey!" So eventually, I started to see her all the time, and so I finally reached out on Twitter, and I started chatting with her, and then eventually I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna ask her to come on Bowtie Certified because I especially loved Stephanie. I loved your story on YouTube that you did on your channel that told your backstory, and that's when I was like, man, more people need to hear this. So,
yes, thank you.
you're welcome. You're welcome. So, diving right into it, Stephanie, what were you doing before diving into tech? And what made you decide that this industry was your path?
Yeah. Well, I dove into tech actually right after school. So I went to UCLA and I was actually studying communication studies, and that was not related to technology at all. I thought I was going to go into media and entertainment, actually, because I always had a fascination with production and, being on set. And I was figuring it out for myself. So I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I ended up doing a minor in digital humanities, which is this new field, but it is related to tech. So I was able to dabble in some social media analytics, and I learned about information systems and basics around database design. So I had some exposure to it. So once I graduated, I was applying to as many places as possible. Ended up applying to Oracle because they were at one of the career fairs. I didn't have a clue what they did, really. I recognized them because I grew up in the Bay Area.
Got it.
And so I'd see it driving on 101. Yeah. And then, of course, my parents were like, yeah, Oracle, great company. It's been around for decades. And being Asian parents, they were like, yes, stable job, definitely apply. And I was like, okay, I don't really know what they do, but I'll do it. So I guess without going too far in this question, I wasn't doing tech. I was sort of doing a lot of different things, applying to Hulu, Zillow, where else did I apply? Venmo. I probably applied to Google as well, but they mostly had engineer positions available for college students. So I knew that I wasn't going to get that job. But really, I was more interested in the effects of technology on society. I did a couple projects there about how Google Glass and augmented reality had potential to affect society and how we live our day-to-days. And then communications. I loved interpersonal communication and had a particular interest in potentially going into media.
Nice. Very nice. And so did you have a specific strategy to break into the industry, or was it just like, well, I'm in the Bay Area, so there's all these tech companies, I might as well just apply. They're probably looking for somebody anyway, right?
Yeah.
What was that strategy of yours?
I want to admit, actually, that I didn't have a very strong strategy here. It was really, let's cast a wide net and figure out what industry I might land in. But it just so happened that a lot of companies that I was applying to were tech or were marketplaces or e-commerce, because, of course, it was a burgeoning field. So when I was in LA, I was applying to, like I said, Zillow, Hulu, Venmo. These are all tech-related companies. Some of them were based out of LA because I thought I wanted to stay there. And it just so happened that Oracle, being the brand that it has, was based in San Francisco. I ended up interviewing, applying for a sales engineer position, which I didn't know what that meant. But it did say in the description that it was basically a consultant that works with clients for, I didn't know what team it was going to be for. They were basically hiring for all entry-level positions, and they had a program that they were going to hire all college students across the country and do a 6-week training program.
Nice.
So when I went home to evaluate, should I continue forward? Let me just at least interview and have it, in my pocket if I can get the job. So I went through the interview process. I think the reason why I ended up getting the job was really because of my digital humanities experience. And I'm sure communications is important, of course, in sales and client management. But I did have research apprenticeships that I was a part of, in which I did social media analytics for big events, and we were doing sentiment analysis, albeit it was very manual when I was in college. So that led me to getting that job, and I basically had to make the decision whether I wanted to go commit to that job or continue looking. And I actually committed, and I continued looking just to keep my options open. And at the end of the day, because it provided a 6-week training program, I thought that was invaluable. That was the biggest thing that I was told from other people and my parents, was that training and learning in the first few years is going to be the biggest thing. And having that brand recognition in the first company is important. So I feel very fortunate that I was given that opportunity, because it was invaluable to learning about the cloud, learning about enterprise technology, and I used it as a complete stepping stone to get into my next company. Nice.
Yeah, it's funny that you bring that up, because for those of you who know me, I'm all about learning. I'm a lifelong learner, and I truly believe that we learn till the day we die, and taking those learnings and being able to build on top of that is always a plus, and always gets you to exactly where it is that you want to go. So with that being said,
totally agree.
Where did you go after that, and how did you take what you knew then and use it to your advantage to get your next job?
Yeah,
they transfer skills.
Totally. When I was at Oracle I was there for 3 years and did the 6-week training program, learned about technology stack, learned about Oracle database. And they were also just getting into cloud. And the reason why they were hiring so many college students was because they were building up this army of sales people for their cloud technology. And so through that, I was placed initially in the BI and analytics team because of some of my experience in college. I asked to be placed into that team. They had a cloud BI platform that they were building out. And so I was building a lot of material, selling to customers, consulting on them, and then realized after 1.5 years, I did want a bit of a change. And I noticed that their cloud platform side of things, so platform as a service, including their compute, infrastructure, database, et cetera, was also accelerating tremendously at that time. And I realized that it was a force in the market that I should gravitate towards. And so I switched over to become a customer success manager for that team, which was also a brand new team at Oracle at the time. And so I ended up working with post-sales customers that had already purchased cloud, and I helped them implement, onboard them, and essentially troubleshoot or at least escalate issues with other teams if they face them. That actually was huge for me because I saw that signal and I moved towards it. And eventually Google started reaching out to me to be a sales engineer for their cloud platform products and infrastructure. And so I did, I think, speak to a recruiter at one point, and then he said, "Oh, never mind, we're out of opportunities. Maybe I'll reach out in the future." And so I was like, okay, this is kind of disappointing. But eventually 3 months later, I got reached out to for a sales rep position at Google Cloud and decided, this isn't really what I want to do. I don't really see myself being a sales rep. I can see myself being a sales engineer because I love talking about the technology and diving a little deeper into it. But I don't see myself necessarily being a rep, which is, I work with reps every day at that point. So I totally enjoy working with them, but I just didn't see it for myself. But I realized that I might as well just go through the interview process, because that way I can at least, once again, learn the process, learn how difficult the barrier to entry was for a company like Google, which was honestly one of my dream companies. And so I just decided to go for it. There's really nothing to lose at that point, right? So I went through the whole process, did a bunch of interviews, went on site in Austin, flew there, everything. And at the end, I got the offer, but realized that the offer was actually less than what I was making at Oracle, or maybe even the same, a little bit less with more equity. And so, I had to make that difficult decision. Do I go with this opportunity that I'm not particularly excited about, nor is the pay outstanding for me to say, I can't say no to it, right? So
Yeah.
Went back and forth, talked to a bunch of people about it. And I just went with my intuition. I said, no, I don't think this is right for me. So I said no. And one of my parents was like, you should have said yes. This is Google, And I was just like, I'm just going to go with my heart this time. And so eventually I just kept working at Oracle and decided I'm going to take some time to go travel because I see everybody doing their, travel experience. I might as well do it now. So I was actually planning on leaving Oracle to travel for an indefinite period of time, maybe 3 to 6 months. And then Google reaches back out for a sales engineer position again. And I'm like, okay, well, cool, I guess. So I was telling the recruiter, I already went through this whole interview process for the sales rep position. Is it okay if I skip some of those interviews because they overlap? And he was like, let me go talk to my team. And he was like, yeah, that's fine. Let's get you on site and do the technical interview. So I had to go through technical interview and then do an entire presentation, all this stuff. And I ended up getting the job, which was incredible. But this was the hardest I've ever worked for an interview in my life. Like I was up day and night practicing. I did the presentation to the point where everybody had memorized it. And they're like, yes, we've heard this. This is the 16th time you said this to us. I started doing it at my friends' parties, giving them this technical interview at friends' parties. And they're like, you better get this because if you don't, I'm going to get mad at you.
Now that's commitment.
Yeah. So I was really excited about that. So yeah, that's how I made it into Google as a sales engineer, what they call a customer engineer.
Right. So I guess you were going for the long play, I'm assuming.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I saw huge potential and just the fact that it was one of my dream companies. And just to give you some background, before I went to Google, I had applied to be a receptionist out of college. Like that's how badly I wanted it before. And so to make it in as a sales engineer 3.5 years later was nothing that I expected. So I think just seeing the long game, understanding that when you have experience, your first job is not going to be the perfect job, but it's so important for you to get that experience in, even if it's a startup, even if it's a small company, and you continue to build your portfolio, and people will start to see you and your potential, your value, and you'll start to get picked up and recruited.
Well said. Well said. We have Ajmal join, and he said, Stephanie, he loves your videos.
Oh, thank you so much, Ajmal. That's so kind of you. Yeah, I mean, that's a whole nother story. It's like how I got into videos. Yeah,
well,
but
so moving into that, fast forward a little bit of time, you eventually hit the scene and you started doing all these videos. You started being the face of Google Cloud on not just social media, but you were at Google Next. I saw that interview you did with Kelsey Hightower. I also see you all the time on the services page. So anytime I go to a Google Cloud service, usually if there's a new video that's up, it's usually you. And so tell us a little bit about how you got into that.
Sure. So once I started at Google as a sales engineer, it was a new, exciting environment. I had this renewed excitement for the job. Not that I didn't like it before, but it was just a very rapidly moving, exciting place with talented people. Everyone was extremely smart. And so I felt that I needed to continue to learn and step the game up. I felt imposter syndrome like no other, once again. So I did that for a year. I was working with a bunch of amazing people. I made such good friends the first year I was at Google Cloud. I'm still really close with them. Like we go to each other's weddings, etc. And so we were learning together, doing demos. We really had to talk about a broad portfolio of the products. I wasn't narrowly focused, and that's never really been my MO, I guess. And so in the first couple weeks of being a CE at Google Cloud, I met another sales engineer, Jonathan, and he was actually already making videos, doing demos, interviewing customers, and filming in all these locations around the office because it was very scrappy. And he was like, yeah, like I'd love help with that if you'd like to get involved. And so I was like, yes, absolutely. I love production from my previous experience with it. And I always tried to find a way where I could merge my two passions, which were storytelling through media and technology, because I've been doing it and I've always had an interest in it. And so I was like, great, this is awesome. So I started filming in different office locations, and sometimes we go to game rooms, and we still have some really hilarious videos of us up. And we would just post it on a different YouTube channel. Like it wasn't Google sponsored, and we don't even know if this was like allowed, but we're like, hey, let's just do it because we want to get the word out there and educate clients and have more material to share with them. And so after 6 months of doing that, DevRel, who is my current manager, reached out and said, I actually really enjoy this content. Would you like to produce it in a professional studio that we sponsor or have budget for, and we'll post it to the official Google Cloud platform channel? And so we discussed it over a few times and realized, why not? These are resources we can use to really up the quality of the content that we're making. And it's a great opportunity. I saw it as an opportunity for me to continue to get myself out there. So started doing that for another 6 months or so. And that's how I ended up getting my face out there for people to start giving me opportunities like, do you want to host the broadcast of Next? And for me, that was huge because it was my first time, on a set at that scale and at the biggest event for Google Cloud annually. So yes. I said, yes, I'd never done it before, but why not? Let me, hop in and learn while I'm doing and just apply myself while I'm doing. And I saw it as a very exciting challenge. So I did that. And then, everything started to roll in. And eventually my manager reaches out during a time where I'm already starting to look to other teams. So I want to continue doing customer engineering and work with bigger enterprises. And he reaches out and says, I'm thinking about starting a team at DevRel that's completely focused on online content and, of course, developer practitioner focused. Would you consider joining the team? And I said, well, I don't know if I'm ready for DevRel because I don't know that I want to become more technical because I don't have an engineering or developer background. But somebody at that time told me, if you see an opportunity that's exciting and challenging, you need both aspects for you to know intuitively that it's a good step for you. And when I was looking at the enterprise CE opportunities versus DevRel and doing this new team that was focused on media and technology, I was like, I got to go with this one. So it took another year for me to switch fully over to DevRel and prove myself because, I didn't have the credibility that a lot of developers do in DevRel. So, especially as a woman in tech, I really had to prove myself in DevRel. Coming out with as many technical artifacts as possible and creating a video series on networking and doing all of that legwork to get myself out there.
Yeah. So for those in the audience who are unfamiliar with the term DevRel, that stands for developer relations. And a lot of people think that you have to be a developer in order to land the job, and it's totally not true. You do have to have a technical background. Or some sort of technical knowledge, but it's not, you don't sit there coding all day.
Yeah, not necessarily. I think it's changing.
Yeah,
I think that they're welcoming more diverse backgrounds these days. And traditionally, yes, a lot of people came from developer backgrounds, and you do have to pass a coding test for the most part at most companies for this role. But for me, I sort of found this convoluted, different path into it, just by saying yes to things that made me curious and landing in a spot that was a niche within DevRel that was just starting to form at that time. So a lot of times I'm like, okay, I got really lucky. And then the other half of me is like, no. I did all the work and it was my work ethic and the opportunity that met one another that provided me that luck. So how they say like luck is when hard work meets opportunity. So for me, yes. I felt like that was true.
That's amazing. So I'm curious with regards to, because I know that you do some videos for to inspire others to either get into tech or get certifications. Do you yourself have any certifications, and what learnings did you do on the side in order to get you to where you're at right now?
Yeah. So when I was a CE at Google Cloud, I did the professional data architect, cloud architect, and the professional data engineer.
That's
Yeah.
not
And so
easy, man. I won't lie, I failed it the first time, so
I did both, and I did well for both of them, but it took a lot of work. I remember one year it was Christmas, and I studied all day on Christmas. So it just takes commitment. And for me, I've been fine at studying in school. A lot of memorization for me, but at the same time, I worked at Google Cloud, so I had a lot of experience hands-on with the products, and I was already consulting customers on it. So, but yeah, outside of that, the learnings that I did in order to pass them included, I would say, actually, I delved into the documentation a lot. I read every single piece of documentation. I think I might have done a Coursera course, but at the time it was so early that there wasn't much out there. It was like around the time that they first started coming out. And so outside of that, I watched other talks at Next, lots of video. I actually am quite of a visual learner, so YouTube videos helped a lot. We had some study guides that were being passed around, really leveraging the community and their tips on how to pass the exam, and teaching others, actually, because a lot of people were also taking the test at the time that I was. And so allowing myself to teach others actually teaches yourself. So I encourage people to try to take the concepts and attempt to teach your friend who doesn't know anything about the topic, or maybe is also studying for the exam, and go back and forth with one another to teach each other these technical concepts.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Stephanie. So I wanted to dig into a little bit of your community work, because I know you're really into, helping women in tech and giving back to the community. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. I would say I've always been passionate about the community. I grew up pretty involved with the Chinese American community, doing Chinese dance and going around different neighborhoods within San Francisco and doing free performances for people. And so when I started working, it felt like a natural progression for me to continue to become a part of the community, especially for women in tech. And fun fact is that I used to do pageants, and so my platform would always be women in tech. So, and just to show people that there is no stereotype. You can have side passions. You can be a pageant girl. You can be a dancer. You can be whoever you want to be and still be in a technical role and still build the credibility that you deserve, right? So I always try to communicate that broadly to, especially because I have a very open platform, very external facing. So I feel like it's my part to do that for people. In fact, I'm always wondering how I can better support women in tech. But yeah, I've participated in women in tech events, spoken. I'm going to be speaking at women in tech events this year as well, in panels, in discussions, even technical presentation that will help them learn and get a leg up in the industry. In addition, I have mentored girls in Built by Girls or other women in tech or university programs. I am currently doing that for UCLA. And so I encourage people, if they have questions or if they would like to just learn from me, to just reach out, because that's actually how I find my mentees, is people reaching out through some of these programs or just on LinkedIn.
Amazing. Amazing. So what does the future look like for Stephanie Wong?
Oh, cloudy. No.
Cloudy with a chance of meatballs, maybe?
Yeah, it's cloudy in two ways. Cloudy, yes, I'll definitely be in cloud. I have more exciting opportunities coming my way at Google Cloud, where you'll probably be seeing more of my face. So yeah, I'll be, being a bigger part of the conversation when it comes to the latest and greatest on GCP, the latest on our product announcements. And then in addition to that, cloudy in the sense that it's opaque. There's a lot of options for me. And I always like to keep my options open because, like I said, I have a lot of passion areas outside of tech. And I like to balance my life where I'm not completely engulfed by my job. And so I'm always taking courses outside of technology. There's always a chance of me going into broadcast and media still. Maybe I have my own segment on one of the big networks one day where I am talking about technology.
No doubt. No doubt.
I would love that. So that's definitely an option. My dream is to get a job, get a show on Netflix. Like, I've talked to on Twitter with people about having a reality show around tech on Netflix. Yeah. So maybe that's a path. So I'm always trying to network with people in other industries so I can see what comes my way and keep finding those moments where I just say yes to curiosity, yes to different challenges that excite me, and just see where it takes me. One thing I'll say is that when I was getting into tech, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And so I was applying to grad school and ended up dropping out of the application process because I realized that I wasn't applying for the right reasons and I didn't feel that passion for it, it didn't feel like authentic to me.
Right.
And so I just continued to say no to the things that didn't feel right and yes to the things that did feel right. And eventually it led to this niche within DevRel and a new passion that erupted for me. So I guess to sum it up, don't hone in too much on trying to figure out what your passion or your calling in life is, because I don't really believe that there's just one calling in life.
So
now
true.
that I've had so much experience, I realize that I can pivot throughout life and have different careers. It doesn't need to be tech all the time. I might not even be in, I very much might not be in technology in 20 years.
I hope you are, because you bring so much life to these services pages, and yeah, sometimes documentation can get really dry. So having a little bit of spice is good for me. So I'm going to open up the to the audience. If you have any questions, feel free to put it in the feed, and we'll definitely get it answered. But in the meantime, Stephanie, if you could offer one piece of advice to others who are striving to either land a better role in the tech industry or even get into the tech industry, what would that be?
That's $1 million question.
Well, I know
I can't.
So much advice already. But what would the one thing be, or even, if you have a couple of things?
Yeah, no, that's what makes it hard, is that I don't just have one thing. I think I've already talked about just saying yes to opportunities that challenge you. But I would say if you want a job or a position and you see yourself in it, then just do the job or act as if you had the job. A lot of people are like, what can I do while I'm looking for a job? Sometimes I'm mentoring people in college still, and it's really hard to find a job right now, and I don't blame them. So they're like, what can I do right now so I can feel like I'm continuing to progress? And I tell them, act as if you already had the job. If you want to be a product marketing manager, start to come out with, you can even use case studies and come out with portfolio and start to build that out and start to give tips on social media. Start to act as if you have something to educate people on and build your personal brand online, because the power of networking and having a personal brand and online presence is huge. Because I've seen the benefits and advantages of it for myself. But even if I was trying to break into the industry, I've seen a lot of people that aren't even in tech break into it because they either, started contributing to open source projects. They started to essentially try to become an influencer in the space through grassroots efforts, through YouTube, through Twitter, through LinkedIn, and people will start to notice, people start to gravitate towards you, and you'll start getting opportunities through natural networking effect. So I definitely encourage people to act as if you had the job and start putting out your thoughts and sharing your knowledge with other people. Start to study and share that knowledge with a broader audience.
Amen, sister. Amen. I couldn't agree more, especially with the whole networking piece. I mean, I grew my network on LinkedIn, and I wouldn't be where I'm at currently if I didn't. And I think it's a crucial piece that a lot of people tend to neglect, because your personal brand is everything. I mean, right now it's not necessarily about the job that you have or the role that you want. It's about who you are as a human being. I tell everyone every time that if people know, love, and trust you, then the world is your oyster. It doesn't matter what role, what job comes your way. People will know who you are, and they will trust that you will do the job to the best of your abilities. So, you saying that just like put a stamp
bow tie on it.
A bow tie on it. I love
yes.
it. See that?
Yeah, use that as a tagline every time.
I guess I should use that as a tagline as well. Yeah. So now that you are at as a senior a senior developer advocate at Google, are you planning on moving up the ladder? Are you planning on coming out with more videos? Like, what is your next step with regards to things that you want to accomplish in that role?
Yeah, I am planning on continuing to build my brand online and growing my audience, and hoping that leads me to more opportunities, whether that be continuing up the ladder at Google, managing people, leading people, or even becoming a VP of developer marketing or DevRel, or eventually one day that could be a path at maybe another company. But I do believe the power of continuing to build the brand, continuing to never stop growing your audience and what you can share with others. And that might be in the form of more videos. Absolutely. I'm going to be creating a lot more content this year. I'm now the host of the GCP podcast, so I will be leading that this year. What else is new? New data centers videos and animations coming out. And I'll be working on a very big video similar to my data center security video that I did last year. So I want to do more videos at that caliber and continue to come out with higher production series. And then at the same time, I want to do a lot more native content. So going live, doing what's my take on this new announcement at Google Cloud, feeling more raw and authentic for people. So two sides of the spectrum, but higher quality content as well as that authentic, I'm just going live now type of content.
Amazing. I love it. I can't wait to see more of that, I'm going live content. Maybe we'll get to see more of it in Clubhouse.
Yeah, I just signed up. So if anybody's on Clubhouse, you can follow me at Steph_R_Wong. I haven't come out with anything quite yet because I just signed up, but hopefully I can come onto the Cloud Club, which is Antoni's show on Clubhouse, and start contributing to any other rooms, and maybe I can start one too, and we can keep it, keep going with the conversation on Clubhouse.
Amazing. So, Stephanie, now that we're coming up on the 40-minute mark, I did want to start to answer any questions that people may have. But in the meantime, what is the best way for others to get in touch with you?
The easiest way is probably on Twitter. You can @ me or DM me. It's Steph_R_Wong. The other option is to email me at steph@stephrwong.com, or reach out on LinkedIn.
Nice. And how about your YouTube channel? Give it a plug.
Oh, yes. Okay. I only have a few videos, so hopefully I'll make a little bit more content this year for that too. But my YouTube channel is Steph You Should Know. But it's a pun.
Love it.
But yeah, you can just go to bit.ly/StephYSK.
Amazing. Well, it doesn't look like we do have any questions, but I did want to take a moment to thank you for coming onto the show. I am so humbled that you would join the show and share your experiences with the rest of the audience. And And I did want to take a moment to thank everyone in the audience for tuning in and supporting Bowtie Certified, and coming to see Stephanie Wong, because I don't know, I can't get enough of her videos. So I love it. So I'm just looking. There was one question that came in. It's very long. Sorry. It is very long. As an underrepresented minority with a math background and now increasingly interested in cloud infrastructure solutions, if you ever had a mentor to help guide you through the industry.
If I've ever had, or if they can, how to find a mentor.
I don't know. Maybe you can answer both.
Okay. Yeah.
He says, I wanted to know if you had.
Oh, okay. If I had a mentor, yeah. Trying to think. Well, I've had a few mentors in different stages of life, I would say. Like, I had a mentor going into college and really pushed me to shoot for the stars and apply to places I didn't think I can get into. And then going into tech, I would say mentors in school were really the people that I did the research apprenticeship with. Didn't have anyone particular pushing me to apply to places, though. That was a lot of myself, pushing myself. I've always been pretty driven in that, but tried to cast a wide net and continue to stay motivated. Of course, I've experienced failure in life. Like, I didn't get into a lot of places too. And so just continuing to motivate myself through that process and trust my instinct when I didn't want to go to grad school, for example. During the time I was at Oracle, I did have a mentor. I was being mentored. They actually had a program where we were matched with someone who had more experience. Okay. And so I did learn from that person. They would do whiteboarding sessions with me a lot to make sure that I understood the architecture or the tech stack behind our BI platform, for example, and then did a lot of mock meetings with customers for me. And the biggest thing for me was actually just getting on as many calls with customers and testing my knowledge that way. But outside of that, yeah, absolutely, I had a mentor there. And then at Google, I would say a lot of my mentors were probably the people that I ended up partnering with. Like, what the person that I ended up doing the videos with, I considered him a mentor in a lot of ways, because he taught me, how to be better at my job. He would even come to customer meetings with me and just reverse shadow me. So he would watch me in person, do presentations, and he would basically give me feedback after. And I welcomed that every time. And then he provided me the opportunities with creating videos for the first time. And so the one thing I'll say about having a mentor is make sure that it's more of a partnership and that you have something to offer them. And you may think that you don't have anything to offer if you lack experience right now, but I think a lot of people have so much to offer, even if it's not related to tech. You can offer to help them with any part of their job, or do the research, do the legwork to provide them value that you may be able to notice a gap that you can fill in their process, or you notice a gap in areas where they could use some help in their job. So definitely come to the table with something before you just ask someone to be a mentor.
Some really good advice there. The questions keep on coming in. So with DevOps and security doing so well, what are your thoughts on DevSecOps?
Yeah, I think developers and security and operations are going to become more closely aligned. I interviewed the chief security officer at MongoDB, and she was amazing to talk to, but that's definitely where the trend is going. She actually came from a government or public background, and so she really saw the transition over from that world into leveraging technology. And so one way to also kind of take notice is how, with cloud and service-oriented models, developers and security operations are only going to become more necessary partners. It's also helpful. I interviewed somebody on Eyes on Enterprise for Google Cloud. It's helpful to have those two teams sit together, because you want to ensure that as a security professional and a developer, you're both enabling each other with the decisions you make in your logical architectures every day. So if you have a trickle-down effect from a policy that you implement with security, you're not being a roadblock to your developers. And so you always have to stay on the same page, especially when you deploy cloud resources, to ensure that you're not a gatekeeper to the productivity of another team. And so being closely aligned between those two teams and sitting next to each other physically when that was a thing, I think is going to be a trend in the future, and definitely something companies should take advantage of.
Yeah, I see a lot of more, I guess you could say, DevOps methodologies being adopted into more organizations. And so security and developers, they are working together with operations to make things just a smooth transition. And everyone just works together instead of having these silos where people are throwing code over the wall, so to speak. I see that going away, and things are going to get better with regards to collaboration. And I for one am extremely happy about it, because I'm just sick and tired of seeing people having this fight over, whose job is it? It's everyone's job.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
like becoming more of a holistic approach to technology as opposed to seeing it as siloed, disparate job functions at a company. And so, yes, I definitely think information technology is changing. And it really does become the responsibility of the leaders, and for every cross-functional team to work together to make that work. I've interviewed other startup founders like Quantum Metric, who's also really, really honing in on this idea of continuous product design, and having that developer agility and coming out with the latest product iterations requires a lot of collaboration between every cross-functional team. So you're really thinking about the outcome, the product, and being extremely customer-oriented, or believing that, just coming out with something on behalf of the customer to make sure the quality is up to par is your MO.
Yes, totally agree. Jamie, I'm glad that we were able to. I'm glad that Stephanie was able to answer your question, and Ajmal the same. Glad that Stephanie was able to answer your question. But if there are not any more questions, I do want to sign off. Thank you again to the audience. Without you guys, Bowtie Certified wouldn't be here, and so. Stephanie, thank you again. I appreciate you for coming on the show, and I look forward to watching your journey and seeing you grow. I'm really excited to see where your journey takes you.
Thank you so much. I had so much fun on this. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you to the audience for listening to my story, and I can't wait to interact with you more online. So please feel free to reach out to me. I want to be more engaging with you all. So see me out on the interwebs and vice versa. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day, and we'll see you next week.